I'm Mark Millon, two-time member of Team USA and attackman for the Baltimore Bayhawks. The following video will cover 3 critical offensive concepts that, if mastered, will help take your game to another level. The intention is to give players and coaches a foundation for the fundamentals, a focus on the proper technique, and a complete understanding of the mechanics for 3 major areas of offensive play. We'll begin by breaking down all the elements of good stick skills and illustrate their overall importance to your game. Our first segment will cover stick protection and how it relates to successful ball possession. Next, we'll focus on shooting technique and cover the 3 main types of shots you'll use in a game: outside, inside, and on the run. In our final segment, we'll focus on dodging. We'll identify a variety of moves you can use to create separation from your defender. Becoming a better player is ultimately up to you. Hopefully this video will get you headed in the right direction. Throughout this video, we're going to work under the assumption that to improve your stick protection, shooting, and dodging, you're going to have to already have at least fair stick skills. More than likely, the better your stick skills are at this time, the easier it's going to be to master the skills in this tape. It is my belief that the game of lacrosse revolves around good stick skills. If you have good stick skills at any level, it'll make you a more dangerous player. And we're going to illustrate that, especially when we talk about shooting and dodging. The way I define good stick skills is that you have the ability to pass, catch, and shoot both right-handed and left-handed on the run, full speed. There's plenty of younger players that can stand stationary up against a wall and do all these things left-handed and do everything right-handed, and then they go run and they have a lot of problems with it. So good stick skills is the ability, again, to be able to play righty and lefty, pass, catch, and shoot full speed on the run. It doesn't mean you have the best tricks or you can do more tricks than the next guy. It just means go through the basics and be able to do it all on the run. Good stick skills are going to start with the grip on the stick. We got to make sure that the stick is gripped comfortably at the end of our fingers and not in the palm of our hand. We also want to have a nice soft grip on the stick. This will allow us to cradle the right way, and when we're catching and throwing, it'll allow us to catch and throw the right way. But we have to have a nice soft grip, and the bottom hand is also doing the same thing, opposite of the top hand. It's in our fingers, nice soft grip. The next thing we need to do is have a good cradle, and there's 2 types of cradles that we're going to use in a game. The first cradle we're going to use in a game is a horizontal cradle. The next one is a vertical cradle. To get a good horizontal cradle, again, we just have to make sure that the stick is in our fingers and not in the palm of our hand. If it's in the palm of our hand, we're never going to get a good cradle. But if it rests down there at the end of our fingers, we'll be all set. We need to make sure that when we cradle, we just turn the stick over towards our body. The bottom hand is basically just acting as a guide, and we're just going to make the OK sign with the bottom hand. So we're just turning the stick over, bringing it towards us, kind of like we're just doing a wrist curl, just turning it towards us. The horizontal cradle is going to be used most of the time in the open field when we're unplayed by a defenseman. And as a defenseman comes and picks us up, we want to get into a vertical cradle. At the younger level, we want to cradle mostly with 2 hands. And as we start to get a little bit more advanced, we're going to go with a one-handed vertical cradle. And basically, again, we're just taking this cradle from here and we're moving it up to this area up in here, and we're just turning our wrist over. The cradle is going to be really important, not only when defensive players check our sticks. The centrifugal force is going to help keep the ball in our stick, but we're going to learn later on that this cradle here is going to move into a vertical cradle, but it's also going to help in our shooting. The next part of stick skills we're going to talk about is throwing or passing to a teammate. First thing I like to do is make sure my hands are in a good position on the stick. I like to have my hands about 13 inches apart. Most of the time, if you watch me in a game, I'll have my hands choked up a little bit, unless I'm making a real long pass. Otherwise, I like to have my hands choked up a little bit for control. You'll also notice that when I go throw the ball, I have my hands and elbows high and away from my body. The next thing I need to do when I throw the ball is I want to pick a target. My teammate will hopefully give me a target with his stick, and I want to make sure the head of my stick goes directly at his target.
And Mark Millon. Great pass and a great shot and a goal.
If the head of my stick goes in an area away from his stick, I'm going to miss the target. So when I throw, I need to have my hands and elbows high and away, about 13 inches apart. Head of my stick goes right at the target. Also, I want to step towards my target, not away from it. I want to step towards my target when I'm throwing to it. You'll notice when I'm throwing that my top hand is doing most of the work, similar to throwing a baseball or throwing anything, but my top hand is doing most of the work and my bottom hand is pretty much a guide. When receiving a pass, there's also a bunch of things I need to keep in mind. The first thing I need to do is make sure I'm always moving in the direction of my teammate. If I feel I'm open, I don't want to stand stationary. I just want to move towards my teammate and look to give him a target. The next thing I need to do is, again, choke up on my stick a little bit. There's really no need to catch the ball with your hands down here, especially when you're talking about receiving a pass with your offhand. Make it a little bit more comfortable by choking up. You still have plenty of time to catch the ball and slide your hands down. The next thing I need to do is make sure that I catch the ball on the side of my body and I don't go out and lunge for the ball. I want to make sure I wait for the ball to come to me and not reach out for it. When catching it, I also want to think in terms almost of catching an egg, and that'll allow me to have real soft hands. So as the ball comes in, catch it, move it. Real soft. You should almost not even hear the ball land in your stick. Having the proper grip is going to allow you to have those soft hands. Being able to play both left-handed and right-handed is, again, a key ingredient to getting your game to the next level, and it's something that's really helped me over the years to be a more dangerous player. Unfortunately, it's not a real easy skill to learn. One of the things you probably notice with your offhand is that when you're working on your strong hand, all your technique is good. Your hands and elbows are up. You do everything the same way. You're really comfortable. And then once you go to your offhand, everything becomes really awkward. You're throwing a different way. A drill I used to do when I was growing up is, I just call it the mirror drill. And what I did was I stopped and I really broke down exactly what I was doing with my strong hand. So I would look and I would see my hands were in a certain position. They were high and away from my body. I was stepping to my target. Everything was really good, really fluid, and really comfortable. Again, when I was working on my offhand, everything was very awkward. So I stopped and said, okay, I'm working on doing certain things with my right hand. Why can't I do them with my offhand? I looked and I broke it down and said, here's what I need to do. I tried to do all the same things with my offhand as I did with my strong hand, and just without even a ball, just worked on the technique over and over. And after a while, I would start picking up a ball, throwing off a wall, and my left hand technique got exactly like my right hand. Once you get comfortable with all the skills you need in order to have good stick skills, you got to spend a lot of time practicing, and I mean a lot of time. If you really want to have the stick skills to be a really good player, go out and spend a great deal of time. The first thing you should do is just play off a wall. You've probably heard it hundreds of times from your coach. You just need to play left-handed, right-handed. I'd say 50 to 100 reps a day, both left-handed and right-handed. Just keep throwing off the wall. Make sure your technique is good. You're stepping towards your target. After you've got done working on the fundamentals, you may want to have some fun. Just finish up your practice session that way. Try throwing some between the legs. Believe it or not, this will help your stick skills. The other thing you want to maybe work on is just some reverse behind the backs, just some different things in order to make your sessions a little bit more interesting. You can then maybe just work on some regular behind the back passes, and that'll be a good way to finish up. Also, work on some stick tricks. Anytime you can have your stick in your hands, working on different things, working on your eye-hand coordination, it'll really help your game. Work on just trying to throw the ball off the stick. Maybe try different tricks like this. Try to get around it twice. Another trick you can try is just throw the ball up, catch it on the sidewall. Final trick, just to have some fun, is a stick twirl. If you can master these skills and be able to play both left-handed and right-handed comfortably, you're going to be a much more dangerous player. Stick protection is going to be important as an offensive player when you're carrying the ball looking to feed, transitioning the ball to another teammate, and getting ready to set up a dodge. The basic idea of having good stick protection is to always keep your body in between the stick and the defensive player. Good technique is going to start with the cradle, and technique is going to be very important. We're also going to illustrate a couple ways to protect your stick just by the way you move on the field. During this segment, we're going to talk about a couple of different ways to protect your stick, and we'll just start by talking a little bit about a two-handed cradle. Most younger players at the youth level are going to be taught that they need to cradle the stick with two hands. The key in protecting your stick in this situation is to make sure that you take your cradle from horizontal into a little bit vertical, and as a defenseman comes and picks you up, you're just going to need to continue cradling and try to protect your stick with your body. You'll also see some high-level players who attackmen come around the goal with a really strong power cradle. The key again here is to just make sure that you're cradling with your top hand. As a defensive player comes and picks you up, you're going to turn into him to absorb the check. We're cradling pretty hard in this situation, and we're hoping that if a defensive player checks our stick, the ball is going to stay in there because of the cradle. We talked briefly before about the vertical cradle, and the thing we have to understand is that this is the most important part of having good stick protection. Just to review, we want to make sure the stick is in our fingers as opposed to in the palm of our hand, and we want to make sure we cradle with our wrist. We also want to keep our elbow locked very tightly to our ribs, okay? And you'll see the stick is kind of cradled somewhere near my ear, or what's referred to in lacrosse as the box area. The next thing we need to do to have good stick protection is get our offhand up high and away from our body, and this will act kind of naturally as a shield between the defender and my stick. We've got to make sure, though, that I don't push off the defender with this free hand, or I'll be called for a warding off. But if it just sits up there and acts as a shield, no problem. Also, I got to make sure that I turn my upper body, turn my shoulders into the defenseman, and again, my body will be between my stick and the defenseman, which is our goal to have good stick protection. The last thing we need to do to have good stick protection is just to make sure our head is always up, looking towards the middle of the field. A lot of young players will focus so much on having good stick protection, everything will be great, and then they'll forget about keeping their head up, their head will go down, and they won't see their teammates. So quick review, make sure our elbow's locked. Want to make sure we cradle with our wrist and not with our arm. Next thing we have to do is have our hand up high and away, keep our head up, turn our upper body, and the defenseman will never get it away from you. Once I establish good stick protection running in one direction, I need to learn to maintain it through a dodge. In a change of direction dodge, I need to make sure my stick is tucked. As I get into the dodge and I change direction, I want to make sure my stick stays in towards my body, in between my legs. As I go to switch hands, again, I want to make sure my stick stays close to my body. I don't want to pin it against my chest, that's illegal. And then as I roll out of the dodge, I again keep it near my chest, and then I protect my stick outside the dodge. If I was to do it the incorrect way, I would keep my stick nice and tucked into the dodge, then I would keep it outside my legs and hang it behind me, and I'm going to lose the ball pretty easily. Probably the best way to work on your stick protection is just have another defenseman go out there with you, shadow you, run back and forth, and have him throw checks when you leave your stick unprotected. If you are in a situation where you don't have another defenseman, a drill I use and a drill you can use to work in your stick protection is just get two cones and try to run back and forth, making sure that you're working on all the elements and everything's in place. Your stick is really tucked. You go into your change of direction, you keep your stick between your legs. It should look something like this. Just a small variation to this drill, just to make sure that your head is continuously up, is to grab a friend or teammate or coach and have him stand in the front of the crease area and just hold up numbers with his hand. As I run back and forth to make sure my head is up, I need to read off the numbers my coach is holding up. So that's what this will look like. 2, 5, 4, 2, There are two other valuable tools you can use to protect your stick and alleviate a really aggressive checking defenseman from taking the ball away from you. The first one is to make sure you change planes. Right now I'm running on the same line or the same plane, and it makes it very easy for my defenseman to time up his checks. If I change planes or zigzag and run in and out on my defenseman, again, keeping my stick protected fundamentally, but running on a different plane will make it very hard for him to time up his checks. The other thing you can do, and probably works more than anything, and the mistake more younger players make than anything else, is just running full speed. If you run 100% full speed when that ball is in your stick, the defenseman's got to run full speed. He won't be able to throw as many checks. You won't get the ball turned over quite as much, and you'll have better stick protection. To practice running on a different plane or running in a zigzag pattern, the best way to do it is to get a defenseman out there with you, have him throw a lot of checks, and continuously run in about 10 or 12 yards at a time on a zigzag. If you don't have that option open to you, get two cones, put them about 12 yards apart, run in between them again on a zigzag pattern, keep your head up and keep your stick protected the whole time. Regardless of what level you're currently playing at, having good stick protection will make you a better offensive player. One thing I used to do when I was growing up, when I would go out and run long distances, I would continuously run with my stick protected, cradling with my wrist, with my arm up, and I think that helped me become a better player. As you'll see later on in the video, having good stick protection will make you a better dodger as well as a better shooter. While stick protection is not necessarily the easiest skill to master, it is easy to practice. Make sure you spend a fair amount of time working on it. In this video, we're going to break down shooting in 3 segments. We're going to start with an outside or a time and room shot. Most of the time, a time and room shot is anywhere where you're about 10 yards away from the goal. The reason we call it a time and room shot is after we receive a pass from a teammate, we have some time and room before a defender picks us up to release the shot. The next shot we're going to talk about is an inside or crease shot where you're around the goal. These shots are going to be anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 yards away from the goal. And the final shot we'll talk about is a shot on the run. Shooting on the run is probably one of the most difficult skills to learn in lacrosse, and it's probably the skill you want to practice the most. It's a pretty obvious statement, but if you can't shoot, you can't score. I've played with a lot of really good players over the years, as I'm sure you have, that are great dodgers. They get themselves in position to score, but they're not good finishers. Those type of guys have a real hard time getting their game to the next level. Shooting is going to start more than anything with fundamentals and technique, and we're going to cover all those in a few minutes. The next thing we have to know with shooting is that all those fundamentals and techniques need to be repeated with your offhand. So you don't only want to be a great shooter with your strong hand, but you want to be able to do all the same techniques with your weak hand. If you can do that, you're going to be surprised how many more scoring opportunities you're going to have. The first part of shooting we're going to cover is an outside or a time and room shot. Outside and time and room shots are any shots about 10 to 12 yards outside of the goal. The most important part of this shot is that we're going to need power and accuracy and speed from out here.
Millon up top. He rockets the left hand.
The most important thing we're going to need to get speed and power on our shot from outside is good mechanics, good fundamentals, good technique. Having good fundamentals and good technique will allow a guy who's maybe 5'8", 160 pounds to shoot as hard and as fast as a guy who's 6'2", 210 pounds. The first thing we need to do to get power and speed from outside is get a good base. By getting a good base, I mean we need to get in an athletic position, having good bouncy legs. We want to have our feet a little more than shoulder width apart, okay? And again, we want to have good bouncy legs. We're going to need this to get power from our shot, and we need to really be able to step into our shot. To use another sport, if you take a look at a baseball pitcher, when they throw the ball, they don't just stand there and throw it. They get a ton of power from their legs, and they get a big drive, and that's where a lot of their speed's going to come from. Same thing in lacrosse. If I'm out here 10 to 12 yards out, I'm not going to just stand there and throw it. I need to get low, I need to get a good base, and step into my shot. Again, get a good base, and step into my shot. After we set that good base, we got good athletic position, we want to make sure our legs are perpendicular to the goal. You can see my back is not to the goal, parallel to it, and I'm not wide open to it. I'm directly perpendicular to the goal. The next thing we need to do on an outside shot is set our hands in the correct position on the stick. The correct position for our hands is about 12 or 13 inches apart. I like to have my bottom hand all the way down to the butt end, and again, my top hand is about 12 or 13 inches apart. If my hands are too far apart, I'm not going to get any power on the shot. If my hands are too close together, I'm not going to get any accuracy on the shot. So for an outside shot, I like to have my hands about 12 or 13 inches apart, and that gives me the optimal distance to get power. To make sure my hands are in the proper position, I like to put some tape down at the end of my stick. This way, when I catch a pass, my hand goes right to that spot. I know exactly where it is. You can also see I have some tape about 12 or 13 inches up. Catch the pass, my bottom hand goes to the bottom, and my top hand goes to that spot 12 or 13 inches up. As soon as I catch that pass, I'm ready to go. Once I get in a good athletic position with my legs nice and bouncy, perpendicular to the goal, I got my hands 12 or 13 inches apart, whatever you're comfortable with. I need to get some extension. I need to have my hands and elbows high and away from my body. This is going to give me a lot of extra power on the shot. You can see if I have my hands in real close on an outside shot, I'm not going to get any power. But if I can extend my hand, I'm going to get a lot of extra power on my shot. After you feel comfortable with the base you set and you're in a good athletic position and you're perpendicular to the goal, you need to take a little skip step towards the goal. This is going to give you the drive you need, like we talked about before from the pitcher. Pitcher gets that extra push. We got to make sure here we don't cross our feet over. We just want to skip, bring our feet together, and that'll give us some extra momentum for the shot. The next and perhaps the most difficult skill to learn in an outside shot, and the area you're probably going to get the most speed and power from, is from a big hip and shoulder turn. If you can do that right, you're going to get a lot of speed for the shot. If you look at another sport and you look at the way a golfer swings, the reason why they can hit the ball so far is because they turn, the pro golfer turns his hips and shoulders and uncorks it through. If they didn't turn their hips and shoulders so much, they wouldn't hit it so far. Same thing in lacrosse. For us to be able to shoot hard, we need to really turn our hips and shoulders through the shot. The reason why this is difficult is because I'm going to need to be able to cradle the ball back, keep it in, and come through the shot. A drill I used to work on when I was younger is just keep the stick, keep the ball on the stick, turn and cradle without even shooting it. Just turn and cradle. Turn and cradle it through, and then I would go out on the goal and just work on turning my hips and shoulders through the shot. The final skill to make up the basic mechanics of the outside shot is a wrist snap about 3/4 of the way through the shot. So when you get ready to turn your hip and shoulders with that big cradle, you're coming through about 3/4 of the way through it. You want to just let go with your wrist, snap your wrists over. That's going to give you about 10 extra miles per hour on the shot. Let's review the basic mechanics of an outside shot. First thing we need to do is we're going to get power and speed from our legs, and we need to get in a good athletic position. Next thing we need to do is get our hands in the proper position on the stick. Again, I put the tape on my stick so I know my hands are going to go 13 inches apart. I'm going to have good hand position. I'll be ready to go. Next thing I need to do is get that extension. I'm going to do that by getting my hands and elbows high and away from my body. We then want to skip a little bit towards the goal to get some momentum. And remember, we don't want to cross our feet. We just want to skip towards the goal. Probably the most difficult skill is that big hip and shoulder turn, learning how to keep that cradle, keep the ball in there, and follow through. The final thing we need to do after about 3/4 of the way through the shot is just snap our wrists over, and hopefully we'll be able to get a pretty hard shot from outside. A common theme throughout this video is that there's not going to be any easy way to become a better lacrosse player. A good way to practice your time and room outside shot and to master the skills involved to have a good, hard time and room shot is just to get a bucket of balls, get out at a goal, and spend a ton of time working on your shot. The key thing you have to work on here is that you continuously work on the correct technique all the time, and that you don't go back to your old shooting habits just to put the ball in the net. Feel comfortable with missing the goal if you have to. As a matter of fact, if you miss the goal a bunch of times, you're probably working on the right technique. If every ball goes in right away, your technique is probably your old technique. So spend a lot of time working on your proper technique. If you miss the goal, it's okay. After a while, you get comfortable, you'll be putting them in the goal consistently. When we start to talk about placement for outside or time and room shots, there's a couple things we want to keep in mind. First thing we want to know is a little bit about our goalie, where his strengths and weaknesses are. If he's really good up high, I hardly want to shoot at all to his strength. If I know he's real weak on a certain bounce shot, I probably want to shoot a lot of those. As a general rule, we probably want to shoot as many bounce shots that try to skip up underneath the bar as we can. Those are the hardest saves for a goalie to make. So we want to shoot real nice high bounce shots. If they go over the goal, that's fine, we can live with that, we'll get the ball back. A key concept you have to understand with shooting high bounce shots is you have to get out and you got to know your field a little bit. A certain field you're playing on might be very hard. You got to bounce the ball a little closer to the goal. If the field is real soft like the one we're on today, you probably have to bounce the ball a little bit further away from the goal. Okay, so we talked about where the best place to shoot are the high bounce shots under the bar. An outside time and room shot, probably the worst place I can shoot is right at the goalie's feet. Not only on a fly at his feet, but when the ball bounces at his feet, those are really easy saves for him to make. Again, you can see how easy it is for the goalie to gobble those up, as opposed to when I shoot it overhand up into the bars. You can see he's really struggling with the ones that are bouncing high. Another thing we need to do to be an effective scorer from outside is have a quick release. While we call this a time and room shot, that doesn't mean you have all day to release it. So we need to learn to move to our teammate and pretty much be ready to shoot it as soon as you catch the ball. So if I move towards my teammate, I'm going to catch the ball and try to get as much power and velocity as I can and still get rid of the ball really quickly. I've played with a lot of players that have a really good shot. It takes them a long time to get the shot off. Make sure you learn, move towards the ball, catch it, get rid of it as quickly as you can, especially as you get up to higher levels. That time and room gap's going to fill up really quickly. In game situations, you're not going to often find yourself standing in a certain area wide open where you can catch the ball and just get a release. So what you need to work on is finding a passing lane and then shooting off the pass, making sure that you have, again, good technique, making sure that your base is set, you're taking a half skip to the goal, and that you're getting a good, hard, quick release. A drill I like to work on to practice this is I just set up 2 cones in different areas of the field. I'll start at 1 cone, cut hard, basically trying to find a passing lane, look for my teammate, set a good base, get a good, hard release. Developing deception on your outside shot is another key element to becoming a better scorer. The way we're going to get that deception, we talked about it before, is from our hip and shoulder turn. If we get a big hip and shoulder turn on our outside shot, not only are we going to get power out of that, but we're also going to get deception. The stick head is going to hide behind our shoulder for an extra second or two, which is going to give the goalie less time to see the shot. And to illustrate that, if you see, if I had the stick head out in front of me and I was to shoot at the goalie can see it the whole way. As soon as I turn that hip and shoulder, the stick comes from behind me, goalie sees it for less time, I'm more deceptive and a better scorer. When shooting outside time and room shots, you want to really try to shoot overhand as much as possible as opposed to sidearm or underhand. Let me just illustrate why. When shooting overhand, you have a lot greater room for error in hitting the goal. Basically, if I was to shoot at the middle of the goal and I miss my release point right now a little bit low, you can see the ball still goes in the goal. If I'm shooting overhand at the middle of the goal and I miss my release point just a little bit high, again, it still goes in the goal. When shooting sidearm, should I miss my release point and let the ball go a little bit too early, I'm going to miss the goal on the side. If I throw it sidearm and I hold on to the ball a little bit too long, I'm going to miss the goal on that side. So if I shoot the ball overhand, even if I miss my release point, I'm still going to put it in the net. Another way to become a better outside shooter is to learn to be able to shoot underhand and sidearm as opposed to shooting overhand all the time. Basically, what we want to keep in mind with this shot is that we want to keep everything the same as we do for an overhand outside shot. We want to have a good base, we want to have our hands and elbows high and away, and the biggest difference comes in the cradle. Instead of cradling it back and coming through over the top, I just want to learn to cradle more underneath and come through. The big thing we have to learn to do on an underhand outside shot is get used to the accuracy and the release point. If I want to shoot it low, I need to release it real early in the shot, in the follow-through. If I want to shoot it high, I just want to hold on to it a little bit longer. I'm sure most of your coaches will discourage you from shooting underhand shots, and that's because it's pretty tough to be accurate. Make sure you spend a lot of time working on it, working those release points before you pull it out in the game. Another way to make yourself a more dangerous shooter from outside and create a little bit more deception is by changing planes. By this I mean, if I drop my stick low, I don't want to shoot low. You can see as I start to drop my stick low, the goalie's naturally going to go down with my stick. It'd be a much harder save if I drop my stick low and shoot it high. Okay? Also, if I keep my stick high and shoot it high, again, it's a very easy save. You can see it's a real easy save for him. However, if I keep my stick high and then shoot it low, it's a lot harder save.
Millon gets roped from up top. He gives the United States a 6-5 score. That's Millon's second goal of the game.
Bayhawks have to shoot. Shot clock.
Oh!
He totally knew what the shot clock read, catches it, turns to his strong left hand, and just rifles that right over the stick of Big Mike Abele. He's one of the biggest goalies in lacrosse.
That's Millon's second goal of the game. He has such a laser shot from up top.
That ball's moving about 95 miles an hour.
Right back. Left hand cranked up. Shot will score. Bayhawks have to shoot. Shot clock.
Oh!
Millon just slides in and just lets it rip.
During the next segment, we're going to talk about shooting in close around the crease area. Most of the time, these shots are going to take place anywhere from about 1 to 4 yards away from the crease area. The thing you have to understand with these shots is because you're so close to the goal, you're not going to get very many of these chances in a game. You really need to cash in on them. Many of the skills we're going to talk about shooting in close are kind of the opposite of shooting from outside. The first thing we have to understand when we shoot in close is that we don't need a lot of power. So we're not going to need our big leg drive, we're not going to need a lot of extension, and we're not going to need a big hip and shoulder turn. Again, a lot of the skills we're going to use are going to be kind of opposite of those. One thing that is similar to an outside shot is my hand position on the stick. While my hands aren't down at the end of my stick, I do want to maintain about a 12 or 13 inch distance in between my hands. And as I said before, I like to choke up, and it just gives me a little bit extra control. When you're shooting around the crease area, there's going to be a lot of defensemen in here throwing checks. The more control you have on your stick to maybe catch a bad pass or just shield your body from a check, the better off you're going to be. The next thing I want to do is make sure that my hands are in close to my body. Again, kind of the opposite of what we talked about for an outside shot where our hands are extended. And again, this is going to give us some extra control. Because we're not going to get a lot of power on this shot from a hip and shoulder turn, we're going to need to get some speed on our shot, and where we're going to get that from is our wrists. We're going to shoot a lot more with our wrists in close. And what we need to do is just learn to snap our wrists over. Just snap our wrists over and learn to get a lot of power. And we'd like to try to do that keeping our hands pretty close to our body. Again, really need to snap our wrists over because we're not going to get power from a hip and shoulder turn. The next thing I need to do when I'm shooting in close is shoot with a decent amount of accuracy. You don't have to over-focus on accuracy, but you're going to need to hit spots a little bit. To shoot accurately, what I need to do is first, after I receive a pass, I want to look at a spot, pick a target, and that's my goal of trying to hit that target. The next thing I need to do is make sure that the head of my stick goes exactly at that target. So if I'm looking to hit a point midway through the goal, I got to make sure the head of my stick goes exactly at that target. If I'm trying to hit a point midway through the goal and the head of my stick finishes over here, there's no chance of me hitting that spot. But again, if I'm shooting at that bottom low corner and my stick head goes directly at it and I release the ball right at that corner, I'm going to be pretty accurate inside. When shooting in close, there's certain spots I like to shoot on the goal which give me a high percentage chance of scoring. Basically, what I like to do is keep my stick in, again, towards my box area, the box area near my ear, and shoot on a downward trajectory straight down at the goal. I like to try to hit a spot about 12 inches off the ground all around the net. I'll give you another example. Straight down at the ground, trying to hit a spot about 12 inches off the ground. When I'm in close, I don't want to shoot bounce shots because there's not a lot of room for the ball to bounce and skip up under the bar. Most likely, they're going to go right into the goalie if I shoot bounce shots. Also, I don't want to try to shoot high very much because if my stick is high, the goalie's right there, and the ball is going to go right into his stick. So again, the highest percentage shot is going to be right off his hip to an area about a foot off the ground, straight down on a downward trajectory. Another thing players like to do in close on the goal is make fakes, where they turn and make a bunch of fakes on the goal. Personally, in field lacrosse, I don't like to make a lot of fakes. I think the goal is big enough that when I turn, I can pick a spot and just bury it. One thing you have to keep in mind when you're making a lot of fakes is that you want to make fakes more with your head and shoulders as opposed to the head of your stick. So if I shoot the head of my stick out, I then have to bring it back and the goalie can reset himself. That's the incorrect way to do it. So if I'm going to make fakes with my head and shoulders, okay? I also want to keep the head of my stick behind me the whole time so that when I do make the fake, I can shoot off the fake. To give you an example, I make a fake here, the stick is behind me, and I can shoot right off it. Again, the incorrect way would be to bring my stick head up, I then have to pull it back and shoot it, and the goalie's reset himself. So fakes with your head and shoulders, keeping the stick behind you, and you'll be a more accurate shooter from in close. Like we talked about in the outside shot, changing planes is also very important from the inside. If I have my stick high and shoot it high, it's a very easy save for the goalie. Also, if I drop my stick low and shoot it low, very easy save for the goalie. If I keep my stick high, again, I'd like to try to shoot low. I'll give myself a better chance to finish. If I do drop my stick low, most likely the goalie's going to drop because I dropped my stick low. And if I pull it high, I'll have a better chance of scoring. So make sure you change planes from inside as well. When shooting from extreme angles or really tough angles on the goal, don't be afraid to reach your hands out to give yourself a little bit of extra shooting angle. It goes a little bit against what we were saying before shooting in close. We said before we want to have your hands in tight, and that's to protect from defensive players checking you. If you have some room before a defenseman picks you up, it's not a bad idea, again, to just reach your arms out. The basic idea behind this is that from right here, my own eyes can see a certain amount of net, not too much. If I reach out my stick and pretend my stick has an imaginary set of eyes, it has a lot better angle. So you can see I reach my hands out and shoot. As we talked about before, when we shoot in close, we need to make sure we shoot with our wrist, snap our wrist over. Again, don't be afraid to just reach your stick out, give yourself a little bit of angle. It'll increase your scoring chances. Being able to quick stick can help you out in certain situations on the field. In order to execute a quick stick, first thing I need to do is have my hands in a proper position, ready to receive the ball. I need to have my hands back behind me so I can get rid of it really quickly. One thing I have to understand when I quick stick it is that I want to just catch the ball real quick and release it. No cradle. Most of the time when I receive a pass, I'll make one cradle and then move it on. When I quick stick, I just want to feel it, touch it, and get rid of it. I got to understand that I'm not going to bat at the ball for a quick stick. The wrong way to do it would be to bat at the ball. I just want to feel the ball into my stick and quickly move it on. A good way to practice it is just get a teammate, constantly throw back and forth, or just get on a wall and try to keep having the ball come back. Just keep working on getting rid of the ball, having real soft hands, getting rid of it as quickly as you can. So there are two situations where I like to use quick sticks. The first one is where I'm in the crease area and I have a defenseman sliding and he's about to check me and I need to get the shot off very quickly. If I'm in the crease area and I catch a pass and my defenseman's nowhere near me, I like to pick a spot and bury it. But again, if a guy's about to slide and check me, it's a good idea to quick stick it, get a good quick shot off. The second area I like to use quick sticks are on the back side of the goal. If I have a teammate on the top side opposite where I am and he's dodging, most likely the goalie's going to have to honor his play and he's going to be looking for his shot. If I can sneak in on the back side and look for a pass from my teammate and one time it before the goalie can come across, it gives me a better chance to score. However, if I was to just catch it here on the back side wait for the goalie to get in position. He's going to have the angle, and he's going to make the save. So again, just to illustrate it, if my teammate's on the top side, good time to quick stick it. You'll score more goals. Won't even give the goalie a chance to make a save. A drill I like to use when I'm practicing my inside shooting and inside crease cuts is just a real simple drill where I set up one of my teammates on the left side of the goal, one of my teammates on the right side of the goal. I put a cone right in the center of the goal, and I'm going to continuously cut up to the cone, back to the cone, back to my teammate. The thing I'm going to work on is just to make sure my hands are in close and I'm picking spots and burying the ball. You'll notice most of my shots are going to hit on a downward trajectory, and I'm going to try to hit some net inside the goal. Let's give it a try.
Watch David Curry now. He will draw a lot of attention. You'll see the defense rotate up, break the right to left move there, and the defense rotates upfield. Millon left alone on the doorstep, little dip and dunk.
Charlie Lockwood looking to get the ball rolling again offensively for Team USA. Darren Lowe back and forth, changing the direction. Big finishing shot.
Millon just slashing right through the defense. Here it is again. You'll get a great angle here. You can see the quickness of Millon. He's so tough to cover.
During our final segment, we're going to talk about shooting on the run. Shooting on the run is probably one of the hardest skills in lacrosse to master. It's also one of the hardest skills in lacrosse to teach. Because shooting on the run is so difficult to master, it's going to require a ton of time practicing on your own. In this segment, we're going to talk a lot about the fundamentals, and then it's going to be up to you to go out and master it. When shooting on the run, we have to revert back to a lot of the skills and techniques we learned when we talked about an outside shot. The one thing we do have to understand that on an outside shot, we get a lot of power and speed on our shot from our base, and because we're on the run in this shot, we're not going to have that power from our base. Where we're going to get that power, we're going to make up some of it in our hip and shoulder turn. We got to make sure that we do all the same things as we said before that we do in a time and room shot. We have to have our hands and elbows high and away from us. We need to have our hands about 12 or 13 inches apart. And again, we really need to make sure that we're going to make up some of the power from a hip and shoulder turn. On a time and room shot, we can get away with not having a giant hip and shoulder turn because we're going to get some power from our legs. But when shooting on the run, we really got to work on turning our upper body, turning our hips, and getting through on the shot. One thing that I really like to do when shooting on the run, which really helps me exaggerate my hip and shoulder turn, is that as I'm moving towards the goal, I like to kick my outside leg or upfield leg out, and it really helps me to turn my upper body. Another thing you'll see some players do is they're bearing down on the goal, they'll move towards the goal and kind of jump shoot it. Those are two ways to help you get a big hip and shoulder turn when shooting on the run in a game. Be creative and find out what works best for you. A few more points that should help you when you're shooting on the run. Number one, don't be too concerned with your accuracy. Just make sure you get a big hip and shoulder turn, you get a decent amount of power, and I'd like you to try to shoot as many high bounce shots as you can. Make sure the ball's hitting the goal, making the goalie work. The next thing you have to do when you're shooting on the run is make sure as you're running past your defenseman on a dodge, you don't slow down. I see a lot of players who make a dodge, they're on the run, and then they kind of pull up to shoot, and the defenseman's going to make a check. So when shooting on the run, don't slow down, run right through the shot. Next thing you need to do is have a quick release. So if I'm making a move off a dodge, As soon as you make the move, try to get rid of it. The goalie's going to try to get set, and if you can shoot it before he gets set, you'll have a big advantage. The next thing you need to do is just make sure that you understand that shooting on the run is a very, very difficult skill. You need to practice over and over to get good at it. When we talk about placement on the run, there's only a couple things you want to keep in mind. First, we want to make sure that we get a decent amount of velocity on our shot. We're going to get that through our hip and shoulder turn. The next thing we want to try to do is shoot as many bounce shots as we can. If there's one thing to think about, see if you can try to watch the goalie's feet a little bit, and as he begins to move on an arc because you're moving, see if you can shoot it while he's moving. It'll make the save a lot tougher. And for the more advanced guys, if you can try to shoot back where the goalie came from as he moves, it'll make your scoring chances go up even more. One of the drills I really like to use to practice shooting is called the wheel drill. The reason I like this drill is, number one, I can practice shooting on the run as well as shooting in close. The other reason I like it is because it allows me to shoot near the end of the drill when I'm tired, which is very like a game situation. The way we set this drill up, we just get 5 guys around the perimeter. Each guy has 2 balls ready to throw them. We see there's a cone in the middle of the field. I'll start at the cone, cut to each man, get 2 shots, run around the perimeter. Let's see how it looks.
Yeah, Mark Millon on that one. It looked like his signature move there, Tony.
Yeah, it's the only person in the world that has a burst of speed like that, and that is really Mark Millon.
No help defensively for the Canadians. And Millon sticks it. Again, another look, a high shot. He gave him a little shake and bake with the head. Right here, he dips his shoulder and beats Sanderson high. Perfect placement. The ball actually kicks off the lower pipe.
Backdoor again, easy shot. Mark Millon racking up some numbers.
Gets it to the lefty, Millon, and look at the placement on that shot, Leaf. That's within 2 or 3 inches of that pipe.
Millon on a sidestep, rockets one home.
Now let's take a look at some of my favorite trick shots. These are not necessarily shots you want to use in a tie game, but they will allow you to be creative and allow you to have fun at the end of your practice sessions. During our next segment, we're going to talk about dodging. Before we talk about any specific dodges, there's a couple of things I'd like you to keep in mind. One of the first things you need to understand is why you dodge. Your intention in dodging should be to create separation and get your hands free for passes and shots. You don't need to worry about leaving your guy in the dust when you make a move. Just dodge with the intention of creating some space, getting your hands free for passes and shots. The next thing we need to do is dodge to our strengths physically. If you're big and strong, you probably want to work on power dodges. If you're small and quick, work on quick speed dodges out on the wings, more split type dodges. The next thing we need to have really good stick skills. And again, good stick skills are the ability to play both left-handed and right-handed. If I have those good stick skills, my defenseman's going to have to honor me, and it's going to make my dodging easier. That means he's going to have to play me straight up, and I can go in either direction at any time. If I can only play left-handed, my defender is going to understand and learn that, and he's going to shade me that way, and he's going to make me go that way all the time, and I'm never going to get my hands free. The next thing we need to do is have good stick protection. If we can't protect our stick, then before we even have a chance to dodge, there's a chance a defenseman's going to knock the ball away from us. And the final thing is that throughout all the dodges we teach, make sure your head is always up, looking to the middle of the field, always trying to find a teammate. This will help you if a team slides on you quickly, you can move the ball. The first dodge we're going to talk about is a split dodge. A split dodge is my favorite dodge and favorite dodge of many of the top players in the game. The reason why a lot of top players like this dodge is because it puts a defenseman in a very vulnerable position. It makes him really have to react to what you're doing. A split dodge is also referred to as a north-south dodge, where you're going directly at your defenseman, as opposed to an east-west dodge, and we'll illustrate that a little bit more in a few minutes. The reason a split dodge is much more difficult to cover is because it's considered a north-south dodge, where my shoulders are square to the goal, and I'm going in a direct line at the goal, keeping the defenseman in between myself and the goal. You can see it's much more difficult for the defenseman to cover it. In east-west dodge, my shoulders are not square to the goal. I'm kind of going back and forth, and you can see that's a lot easier for a defenseman to cover. The first key to becoming a good split dodger is understanding that we need space to do the dodge correctly. We're not going to try to split dodge from 6 or 7 yards away from the goal. To be a good split dodger, the first thing you got to do is get space. You need to get all the way out to the wing, all the way out up top, or maybe start right on the end line. We need to have space to start a split dodge. There are two ways to create that space. The first way is pretty easy. You just want to carry the ball out to an open area on the field, again, out on the wing, all the way up top, or maybe at X. The second way is to just get out there before you catch a pass, move out in that open space, catch the pass. Once I catch the pass, I want to immediately square my shoulders to the goal, and this is where I'm going to start my split dodge. Once I have my shoulders square to the goal, I want to start thinking about where my hands are in the stick. The way I like to put my hands when I cradle at my defenseman is about 13 or 14 inches apart and choked up towards the head of my stick. This will give me a little extra control when I switch my hands over on the split. If my hands are all the way down at the bottom of the stick, it's a very awkward switch. Also, I hang my stick when I do that. So I want to make sure my hands are choked up. It'll make it a lot easier to switch over. The other thing to think about when you're setting up a split dodge is that if you're cradling into the dodge with your left hand, more than likely you're going to switch over for a righty pass or shot. Vice versa, if you're cradling into the dodge with your right hand, you're going to probably set up a dodge for a lefty pass or shot. I now have myself in the proper position out in the perimeter. I have my hands set up the right way in the stick. I now want to start attacking my defenseman. Like I said before, my shoulders are going to be directly squared at the goal, and I want to run in a direct line right at my defenseman, full speed. Once I get within about 2 stick lengths, that's where I want to start my dodge. If I get too close, as I bring my stick over on the split, he's going to check my stick. So I want to make sure I'm about 2 stick lengths away from my defenseman. When I get to that position, I want to shoot my head, my shoulders, and my stick head in the opposite direction of where I'm going to go. So in this situation, I'm going to split back for a righty pass or shot. So I'm going to shoot my head, shoulders, and stick head to the left. Once I've done that, hopefully my defenseman goes for the fake a little bit, and I can split back. I want to make sure my hands are in close. I'm not hanging my stick out too far, and I'm going to split back. I then want to get my free hand up in a good protected position to absorb a check. Once I get to that position, I want to go full speed, explode out of the dodge. I also want to make sure my head is up, and I want to look to pass or shoot right away. The next dodge we're going to talk about is an inside roll dodge, and the first thing we need to make sure we do with an inside roll is that we have really good stick protection. The defenseman's going to be kind of right near us, checking us in this situation, and we're never going to even be able to set the dodge up unless we have our stick protected. Next thing we need to do is make sure we get to the proper position on the field to start this dodge, and that's approximately an area about 4 yards up from the goal and then a 4 yard out from the goal. You can deviate a little bit from this. It doesn't have to be this exact spot, but you want to use 4 and 4 as a guide. Once I've gotten to 4 and 4, it's critical that my head is up looking to the middle of the field. I'm in an area in here where a defenseman might double or slide real quick on me, and I need to be able to step away and make a pass, so I have to have my head up. A lot of younger players will execute an inside roll the proper way. They'll get to a position and their head will be down. They'll get doubled and you'll lose possession of the ball. So make sure when you're executing an inside roll, your head is up looking towards the middle of the field. There are a couple different ways to execute this dodge. The first way would be a quick inside roll where I got to that spot and quickly rolled to the inside. The next way would be a power inside roll where I get to the spot, I stop, I plant, and once I feel some pressure from him, I'm going to roll to the inside. The reason this dodge is going to be successful is because most defensemen are taught not to let you beat him topside and just turn the corner on him. So when you're starting this dodge, you want to make him think that that's what you're going to do. It may help early in a game to try to just kind of turn the corner on your defenseman topside and beat him. That'll set up your inside roll for later on. Getting back to the spot where we're 4 and 4, I want to really protect my stick, as I said before. As I feel some pressure from the defenseman, I want to start rolling to the inside. As I roll to the inside, I want to take a good line at the front of the goal to increase my shooting angle and not fade back behind the goal. I'm not going to have a lot of good angle to shoot from. I also want to make sure that as I roll, I don't switch hands. That's a little bit of a different dodge. So as I roll to the inside, I keep my stick to the inside as opposed to rolling and keeping my stick to the outside. If I keep my stick to the outside, there's a good chance the defenseman's going to check it. But if I keep my stick to the inside, I have my stick protected as well as having better shooting angle. So I've now rolled to the inside. I'm moving to the inside of the goal. I want to get this shot off from the box area near my ear. I don't need a lot of speed. I don't need to back my stick out back here to get extra power. I just want to shoot from the box area, shoot offside, low, and I should be able to score. The final point to the inside roll is that once I get to the position in 4 and 4, I've done everything right. I roll to the inside. You can see that I'll seal him off. I'll seal my defenseman off a little bit with the leg I roll with. So then I can just take him to the inside and get a shot off. So if you roll the proper way, you'll actually seal your defenseman off and he won't be able to play you. The next dodge we're going to talk about is a rocker dodge, and this is an excellent dodge to use off an inside roll. The first thing we need to make sure we do is do the same thing we do for an inside roll, which is get to 4 and 4 on the field and make sure our stick is really well protected. Once I get to that position, I really want to make my defenseman think I'm in an inside roll, so I may want to set him up earlier in the game by executing a couple of inside rolls. Once I've executed a couple of inside rolls earlier in the game, he's going to think I'm going to probably do it again. Once I feel the pressure from my defenseman, I really want to rock my head and shoulders, and I can exaggerate it a little bit to try to sell that fake to the defenseman. Once I've done that, hopefully he bites on it and thinks I'm in an inside roll, and he moves to the inside. As soon as I feel that, he bites on it, I want to just roll to the inside and get a good quick shot off. The next dodge we're going to talk about is a zigzag dodge. A zigzag is a dodge I like to use directly behind the goal at X. Keep in mind, you can use this dodge anywhere on the field. I like to use it directly behind the goal. The way we're going to set this dodge up, as we do with most dodges, is with good stick protection. The other thing I got to make sure I do in this dodge is just keep my head up looking to the middle of the field in case one of the other team's defensemen slides. I need to be able to make a pass. So to start this dodge, I'm then going to move in towards my defenseman. As I get close to him, he's going to probably throw a couple of checks. I then want to start backing away, looking to the middle of the field as if I'm going to make a pass. As I back away, I'm going to shuffle my feet. I'm also going to put my bottom hand onto the butt end of the stick, and this is going to trigger to my defenseman that I'm going to make a pass. As I go to make a pass, any good defenseman is taught to try to make a check on your hands. As I see him commit towards me to make that check, I'm going to take my bottom hand off, get good stick protection again, and run right through him towards the goal. Another dodge I like to use to get a shot off from the inside is a question mark dodge. There's a bunch of similarities here to an inside roll. I want to make sure, again, my stick is tucked, my head is up, and that I get to a spot around 4 and 4. In this dodge, once I get to this spot, I want to move out away from the goal in the shape of a question mark, in this shape right here, and try to get a shot off. You can see it's a little bit different than an inside roll in that in an inside roll, I roll to the inside and keep my stick in the same hand. In a question mark dodge, I'm going to move out in the shape of a question mark, switch hands, and try to get a quick shot off. So far in the dodges we've covered, we focused on situations where we have the ball on our stick and we're dictating where we're going to go to get a pass or shot off. In the next couple of dodges, we're going to talk about receiving a pass and working off our defender's weakness or mistake to get a shot or pass. The first dodge we're going to talk about we'll call the pump fake dodge, and this dodge works really well if a defender takes an angle at my low shoulder. And basically by my low shoulder, I just mean the shoulder closer to the goal. Again, like I said before, this dodge works really well off a pass from a teammate. I cut out, I catch the pass. As I see my defender start moving towards me, if he's coming towards my low shoulder, I just want to make a quick fake, step towards the goal, and get a shot off. The face dodge is another dodge you can use off a pass based on the position of your defender. And in this dodge, as I start moving to an area, I catch a pass from my teammate. As I catch the pass, I want to look towards the goal, and I want to notice where my defenseman is coming at me and coming to play me. If he's at my high shoulder, and again, my high shoulder is the shoulder furthest away from the goal, I just want to act like I'm going to shoot it. As he comes towards me, I just want to pull my stick back across and get a quick shot off. The next dodge we'll cover, also one of my favorites, is just a simple change of direction. I like this dodge because it can be used anywhere on the field. What I like to do in a change of direction is run about half to 3/4 speed and make my defender think I'm trying to beat him in that direction. Once I get to a spot where I can roll back and have a decent shooting angle, that's where I'll execute the move. Another tip that should help you beat your defenseman is to change direction just as he's throwing a check. If you can do this, you'll get your defenseman off balance, and this works especially well with a very aggressive, hard-checking defenseman. A final thought that we cover during stick protection is to just make sure you keep your stick tucked into and out of the dodge and keep your head up at all times. The goal of this video is to serve as a guide to make you a better offensive player. Go out and practice and learn to be creative. The rest is up to you. Becoming a better player is ultimately up to you. Hopefully this video will get you headed in the right direction. To reach the next level, go out and practice, learn to be creative. The rest is up to you. What do we say here? Oh. One of my favorite drills to... You guys could be laughing over here. Developing deception on your outside shot. So most of the shots I shoot on the ground on a bounce are going to go right into the goalie. Maybe not. When shooting in close, there are certain spots in the goal I like to shoot at, which will give me a high percentage chance of, what is it again?
Scoring.
To reach the next level, go out, practice. Why? Let me see that at the end. To reach the next level, go out and practice and learn to be creative. The rest is up to you.